From WBAZ Radio, it's Interview with the Artist with Walker Vreeland.
All right, let's do it. Welcome to Interview with the Artist. I'm your host, Walker Vreeland, and today we are very happy to welcome one of the most accomplished guitarists working today, G.E. Smith. And you can probably tell I am a little under the weather today. It is not Ebola. It is just a stupid cold. But that is why I'm sounding so manly. Anyway, G.E. Smith on the show today. Did I say that already? I think I said that already. The mind is a little bit fuzzy, and it's not cold medicine. It's the cold itself. It is it's breaking down. I think some brain cells. The neurotransmitters are not moving especially fast. Look, I guess it's an opportunity for all of us to slow down a little bit, and that's not a bad thing, right? G.E. Smith on the show today. Good God. You know him as the lead guitarist from Hall Oates, and of course as the musical director and band leader on Saturday Night Live between 1985 and 1995. He was also the lead guitarist for Bob Dylan's touring band for 4 years. And he's also toured with Roger Waters and really everybody. I mean, he's played with everyone from Mick Jagger to Tina Turner to David Bowie to Jimmy Buffett. I mean, you name him, G.E. Smith has played with him. And he will be at Bay Street Theater in Sag Harbor this Saturday, October 18th, along with Larry Campbell, Jim Weeder, and Taylor Barton, his wife. The show is called Masters of the Telecaster. And for tickets, you can go to baystreet.org. So here it is, my under the weather but very enlightening conversation with guitarist G.E. Smith. G.E. Smith, welcome.
Welcome, Walker. Thank you.
Thank you. So I got to admit, I was a little overwhelmed and intimidated just by the sheer breadth of your musical experience. I mean, you've been around.
One day at a time. That's how I did it. And for me, I was just working, and I was very lucky. Like a lot of things, you meet somebody, and then you work with them for a while, and then you meet somebody else, and then so I was lucky to be able to string a bunch of them together.
Now, you live out here?
Yeah, Narragansett.
Full-time now?
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit. You grew up where?
In Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay. And what was the moment you discovered the guitar?
I was a little kid. I was 4, and I went down in the basement with my mom. She was doing the laundry, and there was an old guitar that had belonged to one of my uncles hanging on the wall. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's your Uncle George's old guitar. I'm named after him." So I said, "Oh, can I have it?" She said, "Yeah, sure. It's been hanging up there for years." It was just a cheap old acoustic guitar from the 30s, And so I took it, and I took it out in the yard. It was in the summertime. And I laid it on the ground, and I would swat it. It was probably missing a couple strings, probably only had 4 out of the 6 strings. And I would swat at the low string and just watch it vibrate, And at some point, I was watching that vibration, and I got it, that the vibration made the sound. And different vibrations of the different strings made different tones. Lower tone, that's what I was listening to. Higher, and it kind of snapped the whole physical world into place for me.
Wow. So, and when did you discover electric?
In the early 60s, I'd been playing acoustic by then for a while. I got serious about it when I was about 7.
Okay.
And there was an young Irish girl, probably 13 or 14, who had showed me some songs and to play with my fingers, called Travis Pickin', which sounds like, real standard way of playing. It's called Travis Pickin' after Merle Travis. So then I was playing acoustic, and I liked it. And then the Beatles came out. And I said, "Oh, that's cool. The Beatles are cool," but it didn't make me want to play electric. But then when the Rolling Stones came out, and the Kinks and the Yardbirds, and the heavier stuff, the bluesy stuff, I went, "Oh, I got it. I got that," And then my mother took me down. There was a little local music store, in our little town, and they had 2 used guitars. They had a Gibson and a Fender Telecaster.
Okay.
And the Gibson was $200, and the Telecaster was $100, so you know which one we got. I still have the book where she paid it off $15 a month. And that started me out. And I still have that guitar that she bought me, and so I've always been a Fender Telecaster player.
So what is a Telecaster? Can you break down the different types of electric guitars?
Yeah, sure.
Educate us.
First guitars, were like most guitars that you see people playing, hollow body acoustic guitars, and the body generates the sound. It's got that big open wooden body to generate the sound. In the 30s, they had gotten the electric thing going, and they just put what's called pickups, which is just a coil of wire around a magnet, and that gets that vibration from the strings, turns it into an electric current, and sends it down a wire into your amplifier and makes it louder. An amplifier is just a radio, basically. That's what they used originally. It was just radios.
Yeah.
Play through the radio, and then they, kept refining it. And then in about 1949, Leo Fender, from the Fender, he started the Fender Guitar Company. He made the first commercial solid body guitar. Now, it's not hollow anymore.
Okay.
He said, hey, it's electric. I don't need that hollow body to generate sound. That electric pickup generates my sound. So he just went down to the lumber yard, got some pine boards, glued them together, and cut out this shape, and it worked. And out in California, where he was, Fullerton, California, there was a big country music scene, and he originally made those guitars to be real clean, bright sounding, that real that real country sound.
Yeah.
And it was very successful, and it caught on. Then he refined that, and he made other ones that became very popular. The Fender Stratocaster, like Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton used, And I always just stuck with that Telecaster. It's a lot of times, at least in the music world, the first thing is the good thing.
Yeah.
So to me, that was always the best thing. That very first thing that he made.
Your big break was with Dan Hartman.
I suppose you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had moved up to Connecticut. I was too chicken to move straight to the city, from Pennsylvania. So
Needed to ease your way in.
I was going to investigate it a while and then get in there. And so I moved up to Connecticut in the early 70s, and I was playing with a bar band up there called the Scratch Band. And Dan saw the band or heard about me or something, and he needed some unusual-looking people to take around in Europe and just lip-sync stuff for TV shows.
Now, what did he mean by unusual-looking people?
Well, at the time, I've never been like a big guy or anything, but I was really skinny, and I had a crew cut like a Marine, like I just I'm in like boot camp at the Marines, and at that time everybody had long guys had, especially rock guitar players, man, they all had long hair, and I had this crew cut, and so it was a look. So he hired me for that, and then through him, like I said before, you meet somebody, and we started just moving along.
Now, you wound up in New York, where you began working with Gilda Radner,
right,
as her guitarist, and you guys eventually married. How did you and Gilda end up working together?
I had done a tour in 78 with a band called Desmond Child and Rouge. Now, they never really hit it as big as they might have, but Desmond went on to write lots of songs for people like Aerosmith. He wrote songs with Bon Jovi. He wrote "Dude Looks Like a Lady," the Aerosmith song, and that's one of Desmond's. But he's written tons of hit songs that people would know. So anyway, I had done a tour with them, and there were 3 women in that band. And they had gotten a job. Gilda was going to do this show on Broadway, one-woman show. They had gotten a job as background singers and actresses in this show, and they needed a guitar player for the band. So they said, well, we got this guy that we worked with last summer, so that's how I got in there.
Wow. What was it like being married to Gilda Radner?
It was very sweet. I wasn't married to people know her as this comedian thing. I was married to a real person.
Yeah, of course.
So I knew her as that. She wasn't one of the comics that a lot of them are on all the time. She wasn't like that.
She didn't bring it home.
Not all the time. But she could. She could be very, very, clever.
Did she make you laugh?
Very much so, yeah. No, we probably should have never got married. We should have just stayed friends. But we We got married, like, I don't know, for a joke or something.
But you guys did stay friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was never any bitterness at all.
Now, you played with Hall Oates. You were the lead guitarist for Hall Oates. What, at this period, are your major musical influences? I mean, who leading up to this point do you want to sound like? The Stones?
I wanted to sound like the Blues Guys.
The Blues Guys.
Those early Stones records
Okay.
where they covered a lot of Chicago blues, they covered a lot of Chuck Berry. I looked at the songs, I looked at the album jackets and saw who wrote those songs. And I started looking now. Who is McKinley Morganfield? Well, that's Muddy Waters. Who's Chester Burnett? That's Howlin' Wolf. So then I got the original records, the blues records from these Chicago blues guys with these electric bands. And I started listening to that stuff when I was, 12, 13, and that really sent me down the road.
What distinct memories do you have of your time with Hall Oates?
We toured constant. I was with them for 6 years. And when I started, I was getting $200 a week, $100 to play guitar, and $100 to drive one of the station wagons. And that changed.
Yeah.
They were kind of in a little slump when
Okay.
I first joined them. We were playing clubs. We weren't playing coliseums and stadiums and stuff. We were playing clubs. And like I said, that changed. They put out a couple of records, a song called Private Eyes, went to #1, and I was on that record, and that was great to finally be on be on the radio and be on a hit record. That was very exciting. So, with Daryl and John, I have the memory that first comes to mind is just of traveling and playing all these shows.
Yeah.
It's great.
Now, were you around for the songwriting process?
Yeah, they were always writing.
Yeah.
They were always writing. And a lot of, they would work in the studio.
Okay.
Like I think a lot of modern people work in the studio. You've got an idea for a song. They had a song called Maneater.
Yeah, sure.
It was a big hit. Whoa, whoa, here she comes. And I think, as I remember, Oates originally brought that in, John, and he was playing it on the piano, and it was a kind of a slow bossa nova kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was listening to it, and you could tell it was good, but the bossa nova thing wasn't killing
Okay.
us, Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but, So the next day, Daryl came in, and he had taken it and written a verse, and it was not a bossa nova anymore, but it was still kind of slow.
Okay.
And then Mickey Curry, the great drummer, who I'd played with in the Scratch Band back in Connecticut and then had brought into the Daryl and John band, and T-Bone Wolk, my great, dearly departed friend who was playing bass, we kind of sat there and went, well, what if it had that Motown? Boom, dap, boom, dap, boom, dap, dap, boom, dap, boom, dap, boom.
Yeah.
Boom. There it was.
There it was.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You're listening to Walker Vreeland. Follow Walker on Twitter @WalkerOnRadio.
If you're just joining us, I'm here with guitarist G.E. Smith, and this Saturday, October 18th, he'll be at Bay Street Theater in Sag Harbor with Larry Campbell, Jim Weeder, and Taylor Barton. And for tickets, you can go to baystreet.org. Let's talk about Saturday Night Live. Now, you ended up on the show because of Gilda?
Well, I certainly met all those people.
Okay.
Through my association with Gilda. And, Gilda was there the first 5 years. So she was there with Danny Aykroyd and John Belushi and Jane Curtin, Lorraine Newman, Chevy Chase. So I met all those people. I got to be friendly with them. I got to be friendly with Lorne Michaels, the boss. And most importantly for me, I got to be friends with Howard Shore, who was the band leader and the musical director of the show, who has now gone on to be a very serious composer and does film scores.
Yeah.
He did all the Lord of the Rings stuff, this incredible symphonic score. He's a real musician. He's not just a guitar player or something, he's a real musician. And in 1985, Lorne had left the show in 1980 and was going to come back in 1985, and he wanted just to get Howard back. Howard said, well, I got this film score thing going. I don't have time now to do the TV show anymore. Why don't you use GE? he's friends. He's like, we know